Welcome to ET with GOTB at Euro 2025, the final part. I'm Rachel.
I'm Sophie.
And this is Extra Time with Girls on the Ball. Well, we promised we would wrap it up. We've gotten there eventually. It's taken a little while. Definitely didn't have time to do it on Monday.
No.
After the final. Definitely didn't have time to do it on Sunday night.
No.
I know we've been doing daily pods the night of games. That was just not feasible.
Not on Sunday.
Not in the final. Not when England had won.
Not when I had a piece to do.
2 pieces to do.
2 pieces to do. And then we had to go out.
And we did. We had to go and celebrate, understandably. I think we might approach this one a little bit differently to how we've done our other pods, firstly. We're not going to do a 10-minute roundup. And also, for fear of repeating ourselves, rather than do an in-depth analysis and, our favourite kind of moments and all that kind of stuff, rather than repeating ourselves, we are going to have a little look through some of the questions you've sent us and look back at the tournament that way, a bit more of a personal reflection. I will plug, however, that we both did a pod for Upfront and a pod for The Guardian, where we went over the match, went over England's incredible win and tournament, topsy-turvy tournament. We went through our players of the tournament and various awards and stuff like that, so do go check them out. I'm also going to plug Sophie's piece on Substack, which is available for everyone to read, where you broke down how you think England beat Spain tactically, which I may be biased, but I thought was a very good piece, so it's well worth a read. And we also wrote a lovely piece about Chloe Kelly as well.
Yeah, a very rushed piece.
A very rushed piece, but a very nice piece.
850 words in 45 minutes, but it just came out just like that.
Just like that. So definitely worth a read as well. But yeah, our 7th major tournament, 19 games. So all 16 teams, bloody hell, all 8 venues. Right, I'm trying to remember the numbers here.
Struggling
here. We've established I've taken over 2,000, maybe 2,500 photos that you're slowly going through.
I've done all the final ones, so I'm glad I've got them done.
Making sure my mic is still on, which I very much appreciate. So yeah, lots to get through, and I think some of the questions are around that. One from Ree Jonesy, some behind the scenes talk on working at the tournament. So maybe stuff you don't see. Quite a tiring tournament, this one.
I think you'll never actually really, until you work in it, you never quite get it. I don't think I ever got it when we did tournaments, not in the press box, but it's just a very full-on experience. There's a lot of work to do. It's not just match days, it's in between match days as well. For us, obviously, doing a game a day, I think that was a lot this time around. We did it in 2022, and I think it was easier in 2022 because our work finished at the end of a match, whereas more of our work this time around was in between the matches. So I think that's where we struggled a little bit this year. But I mean, it's the best experience of your work life, I think. You know, there's nothing going to compare in terms of domestic seasons. Yes, you get the finals, cup finals and stuff, but like the average day-to-day of the domestic season just doesn't compare to a major tournament. You do put your life on hold. I would say that. You don't really talk to many people back home.
Sorry,
you're a little bit better at it, but I just can't deal with the messages. I still have to go through some messages and reply to people I haven't replied to for a long time. But no, it's the whole experience. I don't know. It might be different to you. It's really nice as a member of the written media. I get to sit next to the people some of my best friends. Every game day. We get to talk through the games. That's it's a real bonding experience in terms of the people that you're with, because you are kind of, as Leah Williams would say, stuck in the trenches a little bit. But there'll never be anything quite like it. And I think that's the problem now. I always find this now, is getting back to normal life. It's quite hard.
Yeah, it is actually slightly different for me, obviously, because I'm a bit more isolated in that I'm doing photography pitch side, and I don't know that many people, particularly at games that aren't England games. I don't always know people, and I'm not always, even if I do, I'm not always sat next to them. I did get lucky the last 2 games I was sat next to someone I knew, which was quite nice. But yeah, so I find the experience slightly different sometimes. I think in those big moments it can be almost a little bit isolating because I've no one to really kind of share them with. You're just kind of on your own trying to take it all in. So yeah, and I also think this tournament we were a bit more self-reliant in terms of the work we were doing, which meant we put more pressure on ourselves and had a lot more, like you said, in between games. Like Game of Day podcast, really proud that we did it, but that was really tiring doing it the night of the games after having 9 p.m. kickoffs and having to travel the majority of the time. But I'm really glad that we actually did it and completed it and pulled that off. Even if we didn't do one on the night of the final, I'm not going to apologise for that because that was just been, I think, a little bit too much. But it did feel like we were a bit more self-reliant. We were doing more stuff for us and for our channels, which, like I said, we put more pressure on ourselves for. So let's get to some more questions. Great question, that one, by the way.
I would also add that it is surprisingly emotional working a major tournament. I actually didn't have my breakdown this time.
Yay!
I had a breakdown in Australia and in Euro 2022 halfway through where I would just burst into tears just from, you know, being overwhelmed by the work of the tournaments. I didn't have that this year, but I was very emotional in the press box after the game. I literally bawled my eyes out, and I said this elsewhere, but poor old Susie having to write her piece, and she was like writing like this, say it the other way around, and doing this while she's writing away. She's like,
for those listening, that's patting on the back. Yeah.
While she's writing her piece. Yeah, I think once the final whistle blew, I think it just all came out.
Yeah, but I also think we just had a more heightened state of stress and anxiety this tournament, so we were just always at a slightly higher elevated level than other tournaments. So maybe we never just had a breakdown. We were just constantly stressed. Okay, from, is it Neve Murphy, most memorable goal of the tournament? I'm going to say, look, there were some unbelievable goals this tournament, beautiful goals. But in terms of most memorable for me, it's got to be Michelle Adjumang's 96th-minute equaliser against Italy, because so many times in the tournament, I think we thought, well, you didn't, because I knew England were going home. And in the Sweden game, yes, it happened, but it never felt more real than the Italy game as that clock ticked down. And for me, that was the most memorable goal. And it's going to lead into another question. Someone asked Layla Astley asked what my favourite photo was. It resulted in my favourite photo, which was the bench and the families behind the bench that I captured after Michelle scored. And that was pretty special because I didn't feel like I was having a great tournament photography-wise, and I was delighted to have captured that. Okay, go on, your most memorable goal?
My most memorable goal, I think, not live, Girelli's. The one against, actually both of mine are Girelli's. I mean, I was going to go Michelle.
Yeah.
But given that you've stolen that one, I'm going to go with not live Girelli against Portugal, the wonder goal that she scored. And then live, that 92nd minute header to send them through to the semi-finals. Just the roar in the stadium, the outpouring of emotion from the players. It had to be Girelli who scored it. I think that one will live with me for quite a while.
So Emma Martin 007 has asked favourite moment of the Euros, and Boo Paness has asked top 3 moment of the Euros. So maybe we'll do top 3, and then I think the top one's going to be England winning it. Like, the fact that it came down to literally the last kick of the ball for them to win it was quite incredible, and I actually think sums up the tournament in its entirety. Was that it was the final kick, it was the last moment where they managed to win it. The others, I really enjoyed being there for the Switzerland-Norway game and just seeing the emotion on Switzerland's faces where they kind of realised their dreams a little bit. I think that was quite a special moment. Are you going to say Girelli sending Italy through to the semi-final?
I'm going to go Switzerland-Spain, the quarter-final. Being in Bern when 25,000 people had marched to the stadium. Not all of them could get into the stadium, so that's a lot, because obviously there's a percentage of that is Spanish fans. So they just marched to follow their team and to support their team. And the atmosphere in the stadium that day was really incredible. It really showed the kind of bond that had been formed between the team and the fans, and just what they've achieved in over the last month, and the potential that it has going forward. So that would be one of them.
That actually fits into Zara Cell's question of the best atmosphere. I think was definitely that Spain-Switzerland game.
And then I would also go Sweden, England. I just don't think any of us will ever see live.
I don't want to remember that again.
Cover live something quite as bonkers as that game. And I think now that we're a bit away from it and a bit away from the stress of it all, you can really appreciate that was pure footballing drama. The narrative of that game really set the tone for England's tournament going forward, I think. Being able to come through, being able to fight back, all the little stories within it, like Lucy Bronze scoring. We now know that she played the whole tournament with a fractured tibia, kicking the sideboarding as she scored it, and you're like, now you watch it back and say, what are you doing?
Chloe Kelly always being the one to step up in these moments. How does it end up like that? How does it end up being Chloe Kelly take? Why has it come down to that in the Sweden game? Why has it come down to that in the final? How does it play out like that where it's Chloe Kelly in those moments? It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's I think that one will live with me for a while.
Kat Kenzie wants to know how the emotional come down has been. I don't feel like we've hit it yet because, yes, it's what day is it? Thursday? Yes. But I feel like we've had stuff to do work-wise Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and despite us now being on holiday, I think once we finally, do you know what? I feel like this is the final thing I've been desperate to do. And actually, it's quite nice doing it a few days later. I'm sorry it's late, but I think it kind of gives us a bit more time to reflect. But I think in a couple of days' time, when we are done, maybe we'll have that emotional come down a bit more.
I'm not sure it will happen for me until we get back home.
Yeah.
And start a new season. And I've heard a lot of people who work in the game say that's the hardest bit. You go from working a final, especially a final where your team's involved in it, and then you have to go back to, maybe not the best stadia or, the most high profile of fixtures, and they're all good. That's not me not saying that, but I think there's a bit of a emotional rebalancing that you have to do from going from a pinnacle of your career and then having to restart it all over again. And I imagine it's the same for anyone in the sport who has to go from the heights of that final.
It's not just 3 weeks or 4 weeks.
You're on a next process, and the next one will be in 2 years' time, and you have to build it up again, and you have to keep going. It's I think that's when it will hit me. That's when it's hit me in the past. It's like finding the energy again. Takes a little bit of time. I think I would say for both of us as well, we haven't really. There's been other shit. I shouldn't say that.
You're allowed. It's fine.
There's been other stuff that's happened, and we probably haven't processed that either. And it's going to be a bit of a time to, as Serena Wiegmann would say, I need to decompress. I think we both need to do that.
Yeah, and also we've already done 2 club media days since the end of the tournament, so that gives you an idea of that it all literally starts again. There are 10 more to go between now and us getting back from our holiday. So that gives you an idea. I know I've seen some photos from some of the journalists that have gone home since and have already gone to a club to do a media day. So it is quite...
my rant about how bonkers it is, I'll save for another day.
Yeah.
But it's bonkers.
Right, Layla asked who makes the best 11. There's lots of mixed views. I think it's kind of hard to go through a full 11, to be honest. But I have found it interesting, and I do want to say, I do think you see some best 11s that are understandably made up based on the data and the data alone. And I do think that can skew things sometimes. And I do think having that human input is important, and taking that data and putting it alongside the wider context, your eyes, the importance of the game, the moments in the game. If you touch the ball a lot, you score higher, for example, right? You might touch the ball a lot and lose the game and still be in the team of the tournament.
And you could be touching the ball a lot because you're a goalkeeper.
Or playing teams that are maybe further down in the rankings and you're dominating the game more, for example. So I do think just take that when you're seeing them online, take into account, what it's being based on. Is it based on opinion? Is it based on literal numbers? And sometimes it just needs a little bit
of both, I think.
Is it, recency bias, and people think, well, someone had an unbelievable quarterfinal and semi-final and we just completely forget about the group stages, for example. Like, all of it needs to be taken into account sometimes. So I'd just say that. Most underrated player of the tournament, Zaracel wants to know. What would you say?
Underrated.
I think sometimes when a team goes out early, you kind of forget about people who have really good tournaments, don't you?
Yeah, so maybe like someone like Olivia Payne, because she was superb for Switzerland in every single game, but she will never be considered in the kind of top because of the team that she plays for and them getting knocked out in the quarterfinal. Because, as you say, there is recency bias. I think she was superb. Underrated. Weirdly, I would also say Patrick Guerrero. I think when she's sat next to Alexia and Aitana, they automatically get all of the plaudits, and actually a lot of what she does allows them to be great, and that's not to diminish from their skill at all, but she does the work behind them that allows them to get forward and get those goals and influence the play like they do. So I would say probably she's not talked about enough in terms of that defensive midfielder position. I think she's superb, and I think part of England's, the way they managed to nullify some of Spain's threats was because they nullified Patrick Guerrero, and I think that was a huge part of it.
Yeah, and I think sometimes when we look at football, we can, and I don't mean necessarily you and I, but I think more broadly it's looked at a surface level. How many goals has a number 9 scored? How are the number 10s progressing into the box with the ball? How many assists have the wingers gotten? And actually, when you properly understand the wider role of a position, you can better appreciate how that player is played and how they've influenced that game. And I think Patrick Guerrero is one of those players that, because she might not be getting all the goals and the assists, goes under the radar of how important she is as a cog in that midfield. And it's the kind of player that you wouldn't realise you've missed until you take her out of the team. Yeah. So does that kind of maybe lead into who would have been your player of the tournament? Would it have been Patry? I've found this really difficult.
I was just going to add one more for the underrated ones. Yeah. Just in terms of England, I think maybe someone like an Alex Greenwood. I know England's left side were frustrating at times, but I think that she massively shored things up when she went to left back, and given that wasn't the position she went into the team at the start of the tournament,
had prepared for. Yeah.
And I know, so like she started her career at left back, but it is still a shift to move from one to the other, and I think she performed pretty solidly throughout. She's always there. She's playing every game, every minute kind of thing. I think that's just, I don't think she often gets the credit sometimes because she's a bit quiet with it in the background. She's just pretty stable.
Lanky Chops wants to know who would have been your player of the tournament. So I found this really difficult because off the back of the group stages, Alexia Putellas head and shoulders, I thought she was unbelievable. I think she was quieter in the quarterfinals and the semi-finals and the final. And I just found that it was difficult to find just one player who was head and shoulders above the rest for the entire tournament. And I do think, I don't have to go on different things and change my views, because I think that kind of makes it sound a bit like it's not true then if you change it. But on up front, I gave it to Hannah Hampton, but I felt like I had to mention multiple players, including Patry. And, your Chloe Kellys, your Michelle Adjumangs, that's hard to give to them because I know a number of people want to give it to them, understandably. But when you think about those who are involved in the 90 minutes of every game, it's hard to find
It's
someone.
really interesting this time around. Actually, there was a really good article, I think, by Michael Cox in The Athletic, looking at the data from the tournament and saying that it's really hard to pick out a clear star because everyone's so, now more than ever in women's football, it's about team units and it's not about, you're brilliant, like Megan Rapinoe or whatever it might be. It's more of because the collective level has increased, it's more of a team performances that get you through in games. I think Patry for me was superb. I would also probably say in terms of impact, Chloe Kelly I think is right up there. I know she didn't play as much as some other players, but the way that she came on to win games for England, to deliver for England, the kind of self-belief, self-confidence, and the kind of aura that she has when she enters a football field, that she will change things that are happening. I don't think that can be overlooked, and especially when, you know, she comes on and she delivers like she did for Alessia Russo for the equaliser, and then to score the winning penalty. I think that shouldn't go under the radar.
But like, even just picking a best player from one team is hard. So then to try and do that across the entire tournament, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts. I think as this question included, there's been mixed teams and players out there, which I think it just shows you how difficult it's been.
I think it's actually a really good thing that we have less stars. Not like less stars, we have more stars, but we have less individual
miles above
that are like separated from the rest of their teams. And I think that's a problem with some of the teams that are developing the women's game, is that they still over rely on one or two players. And I think we're showing the power of the collective in this tournament, certainly. I think it's
a good sign.
It's a good sign that things are developing the way that we think the game should be going.
Right, I wanted to address this question because I didn't want you thinking badly of the team, but Freya DT1 wanted to know why Jess Carter wasn't at Downing Street. Poor Jess was recalled by the NWSL to go back and play for them. They've got a game this weekend, and I'm pretty sure she's being put up for media duties when she gets back, which seems absolutely bonkers. Give the gal a break. Jesus.
They would give them a bit of a break.
Also, shout out for Jess Carter for stepping back into the team. She said she was really nervous when she found out she was starting. I think she even used the word scared, which I just think is terrible to hear after everything she's gone through, to have that almost fear to come back into the team. The way she performed, superb. She had an excellent game.
Her and Leah at centre back, like they were just on one that day, and Jess added her, aerial threat as well. Her aerial ability in defending in behind Leah Williamson, I think, was really, really second to none. I don't really remember many duels that she lost. The one foul that she gave away was way outside the box. It wasn't actually even a foul.
Is that the one where Patry looked like a salmon leaping out of the water? It was Paredes.
It was Paredes, but it's similar vibes. But yes, I think it's a testament to her character that she came in after a really tricky few weeks, not just in terms of what she's had to deal with online, but I think even she would admit that her performances weren't up to scratch either. And to come and perform like that on the biggest stage of all against the world champions, I think, and keep them at bay, was really, really testament to her qualities as a football player.
So she wasn't left out, just to clarify. Jess Dunning's unexpected positive experience from the tournament.
Positive experience.
This is quite tricky because I find the whole thing quite positive. One of the unexpected things that I've quite enjoyed from this tournament is Serena Wiegmann being more, I don't want to say open necessarily, but I just think she's allowed herself to experience it more openly on the sideline. I think we're so used to seeing her very stoic, particularly in the first Euros where, it was hard. She came in, she had a job to do. She was expected to deliver in the first major tournament and to win it at home. She's allowed herself almost to experience more and be more honest and open with how she's feeling, and not do that thing that some managers do where they're like, oh yeah, I knew this would happen, I would totally go to plan. Like, she came out and said, like, that was crazy, this was chaotic. Someone asked her, we're all on the sideline, like all in the stands having a heart attack watching this, and you look so calm, and she was like, I'm having a heart attack on the inside. So seeing the reaction to the Michelle Adjumine goal, even just seeing her like getting really angry when a player's getting fouled and marching down to the touchline, and I felt like she was a lot more emotionally overt, I think, this tournament, and just seeing the way she celebrated at the end as well. And then, of course, bloody hell, best thing I've ever seen, her and Burna Boy on the stage outside Buckingham Palace was incredible. And actually seeing how almost more comfortable she is with England and Englishness and the media, and she just seems a lot more settled or something, which I thought that was quite nice to see and witness from a media perspective.
What was the question again? Positive experience?
Unexpected positive experience from the tournament.
I think I was always a bit concerned about Switzerland being a host. And not because I don't think it's a lovely country, but I think
size and engagement you were worried about.
I was worried about size and engagement, and I still think that the women's game from this point onwards probably won't go to a country like Switzerland in terms of the size.
From a media perspective, it was too small.
Yeah, for the final was crazy.
But all throughout.
But I think the way that a nation that doesn't and we had maybe a bit at the World Cup with Australia, but isn't really fully like footballing nation. Yes, they play football, they love football, but it's not like it as intrinsic as it is maybe back home. So when you think about England hosting the Euros, or even like France hosting World Cup, it's more intrinsic to their kind of thing, society and stuff. It's a bit easier, but I think to see the wave of support, to see Leah Volti and her teammates literally on billboards everywhere. Like, it wasn't just one or two. It was even in like the little neighborhood that we were living in Zurich, which isn't in the city centre. As you drove out of the neighborhood, they were all like the little ones and all that stuff were on the side. And I think that was really, positive thing. And I think seeing the way that the supporters group took off, the way that they organised the marches, the way that they got behind the team, but not just that, behind everyone, like the fact that, crowds would turn out for Norway, Iceland, or,
they consistently broke multiple times the records for the highest attended game in a group stage that wasn't a home nation. I think they broke that 2 or 3 times in the tournament, which is amazing.
And what game when Switzerland, it was a Norway-Iceland game when Switzerland were playing Finland, and the news that the goal had equalised came through in the stadium, and the whole stadium started singing Hot Swish.
Yeah, and these are Finnish and Icelandic fans. It was not Finnish, Norwegian and Icelandic fans. That was pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Okay, this one, funniest thing from EMJAD09. But I feel like my phone is autocorrected some of these names. I had them so nicely written out, and I feel like my phone's autocorrected them. But hopefully you know your question. Funniest thing that happened during the Euros. Now, the only thing I can think of was not football related, and that was you and I on a giant inflatable unicorn that we had called Geraldine, after Geraldine Reuteler, floating down the Limnat River. Started off as a lovely sunny day, and then being caught in the most torrential of downpours, which was absolutely
English and Irish way to do something Swiss.
Yeah, it was absolutely ridiculous. Sure. And then as the rain lifted, we ended up passing by a nudist beach, and we were surrounded by all of our friends on various of the different types of floaties down the river. It must have taken us about 2.5, 3 hours just floating down the river, and we just had the best time, and it was a very funny experience trying to get out of that. Actually, we nailed the exit. We managed to very, very smoothly exit the river on a giant unicorn. Others struggled. Some ended up in the water just swimming with their floaties. I'm looking at you, Emily. And that was just a really funny moment.
That was a fun day,
yeah. But I can't think of any funny things that happened in matches. Maybe when they kept getting Philip Angeldal's wrong in the player of the match.
Oh yeah, when they kept getting player of the match.
At the Denmark game, when they kept putting up Jonsdottir from Iceland. And then when they did get Philip Angeldal's picture right, it was actually Johanna Reiten-Kanner that had won player of the match. So that was quite funny. Helen A. Langdon, how long can we realistically hold on to Serena? Do you reckon she'll stay for another Euros? I think the World Cup, personally.
I think it depends what happens at the World Cup. If she wins it with England, I think that's when she'll call time. If she doesn't, I have a feeling she seems so settled in England. And really, realistically, what other jobs within the women's game are of the level of investment that England have? And I know there are other challenges, like it's been great seeing Pia go down to Switzerland and manage them and stuff like that. But I do think there is only a handful of jobs at the level of the England job right now that you consider, and that means your options are narrowed.
And also, they need to be available when you're available. So, a lot of things have to align. So we'll see.
I think if she wins the World Cup, she'll probably decide to move on. But I think she's earned her right at this point to make that decision herself and not be forced by anyone.
Her game to Chelsea. Next Euros hosts, in your opinion, I'd like to see Italy. That is where we are right now. What did we say? Where did we want to go?
No, I'd like Italy too. I think an Italy Euros would be fun. I think probably Poland would be another option. Spain,
Portugal's
if they can pull
up
their
for
fingers
it.
out.
Sweden and Denmark are doing a collective bid.
Yeah, I quite like the idea of a collective bid in a way. I think the Nordics could put together something really cool, and you could utilise the biggest stadiums in all of those countries.
All I would ask is that if you were going to do that, please put the groups in a single location and don't make fans travel from country to country within groups.
But I love Italy. I think, yeah, definitely Italy.
Italy
or Portugal.
Right, these are a little bit more specific. Livy Downs, your thoughts on England's future defence, especially since Maya Letizia got no minutes this time, for example. I do think there's a lot more time now for England to properly try and solve that back line, that lack of depth in the full-back position, and give players like Maya Letizia more time, more minutes, and better into the team properly, and Lotte Wubben-Moy.
So I think Maya's big problem is that her side of the central defence is Leah Williamson's side. And if England are going to try and work out how to fit her on the team, it would have to be one of them playing left centre-back, which is, I don't know, maybe not particularly ideal, although I'm sure they would do a brilliant job, but they need time to settle that in.
Some would argue,
get it started.
When England were 4-0 up against the Dutch and 6-1 up against Wales, that there were times where players could have been brought on to get minutes.
Yeah, no, I get that, but if you're thinking about regular starting time, you're not going to displace the captain of the England team.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen. And especially when she's playing pretty well. I know people like to get on her back, but she had a really good tournament, I thought, Leah Williamson.
There's a couple of questions I will kind of add into this. We've got Ros Morton saying, would Gabby George in the England squad solve the imbalance problem on the left-hand side? And Kath Barra saying, potential young fullbacks for the Lionesses.
So I think Gabby George, I am a huge fan, we both are, of Gabby George, but I do think probably her opportunity with England has run a little bit. You know, she's a bit later in her career now.
You never know. You never know.
I do think I would be really interesting to see, because I think Alex Greenwood being a left winger, a left-footed left back, added balance, and I wonder if Serena keeps it that way, so keeps her out on the left until we've got these players coming through.
Yeah.
So in terms of the youth players,
Ella Morris, although she's just done her ACL.
Well, yeah. So Ella Morris is a right back,
yeah,
and she would be probably the next big thing in terms of Lucy Bronze's side. On the other side, we probably have to wait a little bit longer at the moment unless someone comes out of the woodwork. So you've got someone like a Rachel Maltby, who is playing with the 19s, got all of the attributes to be really, really good, but is 18 years old.
Nelly Lass.
Nelly Lass is a right back, but she can play on the left too. But these are players that, you're just going to have to wait a little bit more time. So it's going to be probably a little problem for a little while, and that's why I think she might stick with Alex Greenwood as the left.
Do you think, though, come 2027 World Cup, some of those players could be knocking on the door? Could be doing a Michelle Adjumang and...
Yeah, but they need the space to be able to do so. But they should do, because...
There's an Under-20s World Cup?
Well, they've got the Under-20s World Cup, but there's
another one next year?
World Cup qualifying starts in spring, I think, if I'm not wrong. And then you've got the winter before, where I think there could be spaces for friendlies where you could
start bringing them
through. So yeah, it's going to be hopefully an interesting recycling at the moment. But as I say, in terms of Maya, I think it's a bit of she's going to have to be a bit versatile. I think she could play the 6 as well. I think that could be a really good option for her and come into midfield.
Although people seem to hate versatility, but actually more often than not it gets you into a team. Amelia Keaveney, I hope I pronounced it right. I like this question. How can we sustain this momentum better than post-Euro 2022? Now, I do think the momentum created after 2022 was pretty incredible. The commitment to get more girls playing football was great. We did see an increase in numbers. And this is the thing we have to remember, though, as well. It's not always going to be an upward trajectory, and we are going to plateau at times, and that's okay, and that's normal. I think the expectation to be constantly and consistently breaking records, that's a lot of pressure to put in the women's game, and if it's not doing that, it doesn't mean it's failing. I do expect to see a boost after this tournament. The fact that 65,000 turned out to the mall to watch the return was just incredible. We've had some lovely messages from people back home, of family members very proud to see it, because they remember us wanging on about women's football 10 years ago and determined that it was going to be big. And I think, for people like that who it's maybe been on their periphery, to see it I think
Mainstream.
mainstream is pretty special. So I do expect to see a shift, and I hope not just England, I think in other countries as well, in Italy, in Switzerland, places like that, to really capitalize on this, because it is one of the fastest growing sports. Women's sport is growing massively. The potential for investment is ridiculous and off the charts. And I think if you put any other industry instead of the word women's football in front of it, people will be desperate to be involved and to be getting in now. So that shouldn't be any different because it's women's football.
I'm going to say, I know it's not going to happen, and I know people disagree with me on this, but I would call for all of the clubs to be braver and bolder in terms of what they're trying to do. And I am of the opinion that every single WSL game should be held at the main stadium. And people don't like that because they want a crowded stadium or whatever. But I think the players have earned the right to be playing. It's not just about attendance. It's facilities, it's resources, it's being able to feel at home in a club. It's being able to use the right standard of dressing rooms and the right standard of, everything around what you get at the Emirates or at Stamford Bridge is so much better than what you get at Kingsmeadow. It's just a matter of fact. Or Bournemouth. Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of fact. And I think people are a bit scared because it's going to take time to build the crowds like Arsenal have done over the last few years to get them to a stage where they're regularly, 28,000-30,000, which was Arsenal's average last season. But I just really wish people would be bold with it. I just think you just have to take the hit for 1 year, 2 years as you build up that base and that home, and you put in the marketing and put in the strategy behind it. It's not going to happen just because you put it there. You have to do the work around it. And I do think people keep citing to me Brighton's new stadium. But so I think Brighton, whose stadium is capacity 15,000, that's the plans for it. If I'm wrong, forgive me. But when it's built, what if the women's game is no longer 15,000?
What if it's outgrown?
In a stadium concept. I do think there's a bit of
let's be
sheepishness in
proactive and not reactive, as we always are with women's sport.
Yeah.
Proactively expect bigger rather than always being consistently surprised that it's bigger. So
but also just not limiting your opportunities. We've shown in this tournament across the board the interest that's there, that people will turn out to watch the games if you market it correctly and you do the right things behind the scenes to get them through the doors. And I don't think enough clubs do that enough. And the league doesn't do that enough, I don't think. I think there's a bit of a sheepishness in terms of trying to, balance between having a small stadium filled compared to having a big stadium that you could fill.
Well, I'm excited for the next season to see how this win could boost, and things take time. I think we expect things to happen so quickly. 10 years is not a long time in any industry. So I think we're doing pretty well as it goes. I think we did pretty well. Doing what was this, podcast number 21? Maybe 22, maybe. Including our previous introduction ones. We did a two-parter. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you've enjoyed the journey. I know this isn't quite a car park, but I hope you're enjoying the sounds of the Italian countryside.
The lovely Italian architecture behind us.
Yeah, we've done our best here. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for tuning in and listening and engaging. We've really enjoyed doing it, and we will be taking a little bit of a break, but we will of course be back again to preview both the WSL2, it's never going to happen, and the WSL as well towards the end of August, I reckon. Hope you've enjoyed, and we'll chat again very soon.